Hey everyone, expert series time with Greg Dickerson. Video number one, we demystified forbearance. The 3.1 million folks in forbearance are likely to be a non-issue for most of the country. So now we're going to talk about the frustrated landlords. The next thing all these rookie YouTubers are talking about is, hey, all these eviction moratoriums are causing landlords to struggle, small landlords to struggle, and they are just going to either A, lose their properties or going to sell them very quickly. So Greg, I thought we would talk about that. How you doing this morning?
Doing good, Michael. How are you?
I'm all right. So what do you think? Frustrated landlords just going to give it up and just sell in mass here shortly?
I don't think at scale in mass, but I think there is a problem out there. And I think that, there's obviously the moratorium on evictions is going to expire at the end of the year. If we have an administration change, then, that's either way, whether we do or not, that's likely to get extended, especially with the pandemic growing. This is, November now of 2020. The election is tomorrow, November 3rd. So regardless of who's in office, what the legislature looks like, that moratorium on evictions is going to get extended. But if you see a more democratic environment, blue wave type of thing, you're going to see rent controls, you're going to see continued eviction moratoriums and continued renter protections moving forward. So that could be an issue. What they haven't talked about, what we don't have, is we haven't passed any kind of stimulus or any kind of help for landlords. So there are landlords out there that are struggling and missing income. What they're doing is it's a trickle down effect, right? So a lot of landlords, if they can prove and show evidence to the lenders, that they're not generating income, they can get into a forbearance program as well. But if you've got reserves and you've got assets, the bank's going to, require you to make those payments whether their tenants are paying or not. But before they want to go into foreclosure or go into default, they're going to work out forbearance for, landlords as well. So it's not going to be systemic, but it is an issue that's becoming bigger based on how this resurgence happens. And if we get more shutdowns and things like that, it could be a problem.
Yeah. So I am one of these mom and pop landlords. It's kind of the basket I put myself in. I've been doing it 20 years and I talk to dozens a week, so hundreds a month. And this is the general feeling I get. One is there's a general belief that we are being treated as, the monopoly guy, right? The rich money bags, we're just easy targets. Where in reality, most of us don't make very much money being a landlord, right? There's numbers out there that say the average return on a landlord's less than 10%, right? Net of all income when expenses and capital improvements and all of that. So there's a general belief that we're an easy target. There's also a general belief, as you just highlighted, that really regardless of who's in administration, this January 1st or December 31st eviction moratorium from the CDC gets extended. I don't know where all the lawsuits are, but I can't believe the apartment association hasn't done something. But anyways, so again, I think there is a building pain, but I think just like the forbearance, it's going to break in waves. First, without question, some mom and pops are going to lose their properties, without question. Second, many of them are going to get to some point because many of us are digging into our savings account, right? Because I had to put a $6,000 AC on a house the other day, and the tenant's not paying. That wasn't any fun. But so we're dipping into savings and doing those things. But when we get to the end of this, as a mom and pop landlord, you're going to have a choice. You're going to evict the tenant, and then this is the decision point. A, do you just rent it to someone else? B, do you sell it as is? Or C, and this is the one I think is most likely, and I want your opinion on, if it's a single family home, invest the money turning it and then sell it owner occupant and maximize your money. I think those are the three things that will happen. What do you think, right? You get to this, maybe it's March, maybe it's June, your tenant gets out, you now have it because you're the owner. What do you think they do?
So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be market specific, tenant specific, landlord specific. But, I think at the end of the day, anybody who needs to sell will be able to sell. Again, inventory is low, demand is high. So for landlords that are in trouble before any kind of a foreclosure or default situation, they're going to be able to sell that property, whether it's tenant occupied or not. A lot of investors, if they sell at the right price, will take over a property with a, tenant who's in default and, deal with that situation. So, it's going to be case by case. It's going to be very specific. I don't see anything systemic anywhere because there's really no I mean, Vegas is probably the biggest market where you have the most people that are kind of out of work in an industry.
Hmm.
They've probably been the hardest hit demographic where like people are out of work at scale, where, some of that could potentially be a problem. But I think a lot of that's multifamily probably versus
Exactly.
residential. So yeah, it's interesting. I don't think it's going to be a systemic, nationwide issue. I think it's going to be case by case, and it could be a turnkey sale, like you say. It could be a, hey, I've got a distressed tenant sale, and people take it over with the tenant in there, or they evict them and sell it vacant.
Yeah, I think there's a subtlety you brought up there that I want to mention, right? In this interview, that like we did the forbearance, I want to talk single family homes. And you're right, Vegas, other markets, most of the pain has been in the renter population, and most of that has been in apartments.
Hmm.
That market, multifamily, urban, class A, value add, there's a lot of pain in commercial. And like we said in the previous video, hotels, retail, I would lump in value add, multifamily bought in the last 2 years. There are going to be some properties
Hmm.
that just are revalued and aren't worth what they were worth. But when we think single family homes, um, there's not a hotter asset today. Space is good in the suburbs. You don't have to wait for it to be built. It's got a front yard, a backyard, a garage. I mean, there is nothing hotter today, right? There's a Forbes article about the 15 hottest markets out there, and I think Boise, Idaho had like 8 days of inventory or something just crazy like that. There's just nothing for sale.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of these suburban areas around some of the major metros are really starting to see an influx. People moving out to smaller cities and counties surrounding the big cities. So it's really interesting what's going on. I mean, there is an exodus from big cities, all gamuts, all age groups. Millennials, retirees, professionals. Middle aged. I mean, it's all across the board. Again, it's not enough to like shut down an entire city, but it's substantial, and especially for the areas that are feeling the pressure from the influx.
That's going to be our topic for point number 3, because I wanted to talk to you about that, because uh, the suburbs, the destination, right? It's not going to hurt the overall city when, like, I think New York City's lost 250,000 people in 6 months. That's not
Mhm.
going to dent the city. But those 30% of those 250,000 go to some small city or
Mhm.
small suburb. Boom, there's no inventory, right? So that's going to be
Yeah,
our
it's making a
topic.
big difference in those areas, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, the destination, man, that's going to be interesting. That'll be topic number 3. But again, I think the point here with frustrated landlords is, in my personal belief, is if they've been limping along thus far, they're going to get to the point where it's vacant. My guess, knowing most of them, is they're going to invest the 10, the 20, the $30,000 it'll take to clean it up, and they will sell it to an FHA buyer. Why? Because FHA buyers in this market will pay more than anybody else. Their landlords they want profit, and they want to make up what they've lost. And throughout, I
Mhm.
believe, 2021, the single family homes that's FHA ready are going to be the hottest commodity. So my guess is most landlords who are frustrated, hurting, bleeding, they get to the end of this, they clean up, they sell to an owner occupant, they get made relatively whole. But what happened? The market lost rentals. We are going to see less single family home rentals, which means rents go up. It's kind of what I see playing out.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But that's exactly it. It's going to be for landlords. There's a lot of retail buyers out there that will buy that house as is with somebody in there, and they'll get them out, and move in after they get them out. So people want houses bad enough to where they'll buy a headache house and they'll buy it as is. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Very, very cool. This has been fun. Again, I think there will be some pain, frustrated landlords. Some of them will lose their properties, but most will get to the end of this. I think many will continue to be landlords, but the few that do choose to sell, I think they clean them up. They sell to owner occupants, which means if you are a landlord in that city and you have less inventory to compete with, your rental prices are going to go up over the next several years. Thank you, Greg.